Mr. President, thank you. Thank you very much.
I know you're going to ask a really nice question.
Well, it's an important question, I think. Are you worried that other leaders in the world are going to start to doubt that America is back if some of these big things that you say on the world stage keep getting walked back?
What's getting walked back?
It made it sound like, just in the last couple days, it sounded like you told U.S. troops they were going to Ukraine. It sounded like you said it was possible the U.S. would use a chemical weapon, and it sounded like you were calling for regime change in Russia, and we know...
None of the three occurred.
None of the three occurred?
None of the three.
Mr. President?
You interpret the language that way. I was talking to the troops. We're talking about helping train the troops that are the Ukrainian troops that are in Poland. That's what the context. I sat there with those guys for a couple hours. That's what we talked about.
So when you said you're going to see when you're there, you were not intending to...
I was referring to meeting with and talking with the Ukrainian troops that were in Poland.
And when you said a chemical weapon use by Russia would trigger a response in kind?
It will trigger a significant response.
What does that mean?
I'm not going to tell you. Why would I tell you? You got to be silly.
The world wants to know.
The world wants to know a lot of things. I'm not telling them what the response would be. Then Russia knows the response.
Do you believe what you said, that Putin can't remain in power? Or do you now regret saying that because your government has been trying to walk that back? Did your words complicate matters?
Well, you asked three different questions. I'll answer them all. Number one, I'm not walking anything back.
Good morning, everybody. Coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Tuesday morning. And I thought I would give an update as to what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, and the news in general. And you saw the two clips that I played in the beginning. One is of Biden with getting a question from Peter Doocy. Biden's come back from his triumphant trip to Brussels and to Poland. What a trip that was. Wow, what a trip that was. The statements that Biden made. And he was getting a question from Peter Doocy, and Doocy asked him about everything that he said when he was on his trip. And Biden said, well, none of that happened. I said, what are you talking about? I didn't make those statements. Yeah, it's on video and everyone's seen it, but don't believe it. I didn't make those statements. And then when Peter Doocy asked about the chemical weapons thing and what the U.S. would do, what Biden meant when he said that the U.S. would retaliate in kind, Biden said, we're not going to do that. And if I tell you what we're going to do, well, that's just silly. Don't be silly, man. You know, Biden's now, you know, he's holding the cards close to his chest. He's being very secretive now of U.S. strategy. Anyway, it's just ridiculous. This guy's ridiculous. And then you had the other question from another reporter. I'm not sure where she was from, but she asked Biden point blank if he's going to walk back his comments about the Putin regime change statements and the fact that the White House has walked back those statements. And Biden said, no, we're not walking back anything. So you have Sullivan, you have Psaki, you have the White House, you have Blinken, you have all these people who are saying, no, Biden didn't mean that he wants regime change in Russia. And then you have Biden taking a question from a reporter and saying, no, I'm not going to walk it back. Mixed messages. This is a White House that is completely off message. Completely off message. And I think the Russians would have more respect for Biden and for the White House and for the European Union, for that matter, if they would just be honest and say, yeah, we want regime change in Russia. Yeah, we want the Putin government out. We want into Russia. We want to get into Russia. We want to break it up, or we want to have access to its natural resources. And in order to do that, we need Putin out. I think the Russians would be like, okay, at least you guys are honest enough to say it. Yeah, you want to destroy us, but at least you admit it instead of this wishy-washy, you know, BS mealy-mouth kind of statements that we're seeing now. You know, there's just no respect for that. At least say it. Just say it. Just come out clean and say it, because we all know that's what you want. The whole world knows that's what the U.S. and the European Union wants. They want regime change. And there was a meeting in Dubai with a Washington energy official. Let me get his title correct. The U.S. Presidential Energy Security Coordinator, Amos Hochstein, and he was in Dubai, and he was asked about Biden's statement with regards to regime change. and Ukraine. And this is what Hochstein said. He said, I think that the speech that you saw was a reflection of Biden's emotional connection to this issue and commitment to European security, to NATO, and to Ukraine. Hochstein also said that the president was not indicating a change of U.S. policy and regime change. And Hochstein added, I think it was a very emotional, very personal view. So it's good to see that the President of the United States, comforting to know that the President of the United States, the man with his finger on the nuclear button, is so ruled by his emotions. It's very comforting to know that. After 4 years of a Trump presidency where the mainstream media every single day was telling us that Trump is triggered and he's unhinged, and oh my God, look at the tweet he sent, and this is the man with his finger on the nuclear button, and what are we going to do? We have to invoke the 25th Amendment because this guy is going to lead us to nuclear war and disaster. You now have the narrative coming out of the Biden White House that, well, you know, Biden didn't really mean what he said because he's emotional and he takes this very personally. Good to know that. And I agree with the fact that he does take Ukraine very personally, because when you're dealing with finances, it's a very personal thing. And for Biden and his family and a lot of EU officials and a lot of DC officials and representatives, Ukraine was very personal to them because they had a lot of their personal finances tied up in Ukraine. And it was easy money. And the Russians came along and they spoiled their game. And that's why they're taking it very personally. That's why Brussels, the officials in Brussels and the DC establishment is so pissed off about Ukraine, because Russia came in and they ruined their grift. Easy money. It was easy money that they were making out of Ukraine for the better part of 8 years. And in comes Russia and they ruined that. So yeah, I agree. Biden has taken it very personally, and it's understandable because, you know, the Russians ruined his finances, him and his family's finances. They ruined it. So he's upset about that. So that was the Biden press conference as he returned to the United States. A train wreck, a disaster. Now let's talk about the big story, and that is the gas for rubles. March 31st is the deadline that Putin has given his team. March 31st, he wants Russian gas paid for in rubles. And you had the G7 come out with a statement, and they said, no, we are not going to pay rubles for gas. And let me get that statement out to you. Let me read that quote so I make sure I'm getting it all right. The group of 7 major economies, they have collectively agreed that they will not pay rubles for gas. And this is the quote from German Energy Minister Robert Habeck. He said, quote, all G7 ministers agreed completely that this would be a one-sided and clear breach of existing contracts. Habeck also said that payment in rubles is not acceptable and that the nations will urge the companies affected not to follow the demand issued by Russian President Vladimir Putin. So March 31st, Putin has given the order to the central bank and to Gazprom Bank to develop the necessary tools to switch all payments for Russian natural gas from unfriendly states to rubles. That's 2 days from now. To switch all payments to rubles from unfriendly nations. If you're a friendly nation like India, for example, then Russia is going to be working with you in order to make payments for rubles, for gas, for oil, for other commodities, for other resources in a currency that's comfortable for you. So the Indians are working with the Russians in order to facilitate transactions in rupees and in rubles, and I'm sure the RMB is going to play prominently in that. If you're Serbia, I'm sure they're going to work with Serbia, who's a friendly nation, to figure out a payment structure that's comfortable for them. But if you are an unfriendly nation, the United States, Canada, Japan, Singapore, and of course the European Union, because that's who this affects the most. If you are an EU country, well, then you're going to have to pay rubles for that gas. And here you have the German minister saying, no, we're not going to do it. So it's a game of chicken. We're going to find out in a couple of days, maybe a week or two, who blinks first? Is Russia going to blink, and are they going to say, okay, we'll accept the payment in euros for this gas? Or are they going to turn off the taps? Are they going to turn off the gas? And is Germany going to blink? Now, there are a lot of people who are saying there's a workaround for this. What Germany could do is they could work with, say, Gazprom Bank or Sberbank. I think Sberbank is the other bank that has loopholes in the sanctions. They've been given loopholes to facilitate payments for gas, Gazprom Bank and Sberbank, so that the EU countries can pay for the gas in euros or in USD. And so there are people that saying, well, what Europe can do is they can open up accounts with Sberbank or Gazprom Bank. I'm sure they already have those accounts, but they could deposit euros in those accounts, and then Gazprom Bank or Sberbank, and I believe it is Sberbank, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, what they could do is then they could just turn those euros or those USD into rubles. But according to Putin's decree, he said that he has given the order to Gazprom Bank and to the central bank to not accept euros. I mean, that is what he said. That is his decree. The necessary tools to switch all payments for Russian natural gas from unfriendly states to rubles. So I imagine that the decree from Putin is clear. You will not accept, Gazprom Bank, Russian banks, the central bank, will not accept foreign currencies for gas payments. And, you come to the question of what is Russia going to do with those, with that foreign currency or those foreign reserves? I mean, if they're not going to, first of all, are they even allowed to turn those euros into rubles? Do they even have the mechanisms now, given the sanctions, to turn those euros into rubles? Will they be allowed to do that? And if they keep the currency in reserve, say they keep it in euros, well, it's just going to get confiscated anyway. So it's like the European Union is telling Russia, you know what? We're going to pay you in foreign currency, and that foreign currency is going to be confiscated at a later date. So we're going to get the gas for free. That's essentially what they're telling Russia. That's what Germany is telling Russia, right? It's absolutely incredible, and I want to pull up a quote a comment that I read on Zero Hedge, which explains this really well. And this commenter said, the G7 wants to buy Russian energy with their own currencies, which leads to foreign exchange reserves of Russia, which they then intend to confiscate. This is a good illustration of the arrogance and degree of delusion of G7 leadership. If they think they can deal like that with a nuclear superpower, it's time to us to reflect upon what they intend to do with us, the citizens. My God. Yeah, I mean, they've already taken Russia's reserves. They've already robbed Russia of their foreign reserves already. I mean, it was outright theft. They stole Russia's foreign reserves. We know that. At least 50% of their reserves, the collective West stole it. That we know with the sanctions. They went after Russia's central bank. They kicked Russia off of SWIFT. And now they're telling Russia, you know what? We're going to pay for the gas in foreign currency, in euros or USD, and that's that. And we may confiscate that USD or that euro as well. So essentially, we're going to get the gas for free. And the other thing that I think about is if Russia has these euros or these USD denominations, what are they going to do with it? They can't really transact with foreign reserves, foreign currency anyway. They've been sanctioned in the countries where they need those currencies, where they could use those currencies. So the whole thing is useless. Russia needs the rubles now because that's all they've got. That's what they have to work with now. So they need the rubles. So this is a very practical move from Putin. We're going to see who blinks first. We are going to see who blinks first. And it's going to be very, very interesting in the next week or two. Very, very interesting to see what happens. I can't for the life of me see Germany, holding firm to this policy that we're not going to pay rubles for the gas. I mean, the German economy is going to absolutely implode if Russia says, okay, no gas, no rubles, no gas. If Russia says that, and they turn off the taps, then the German economy is sunk. I mean, it is destroyed. It is destroyed. I can't see how Germany is going to not agree to this payment in rubles. But who knows? They've agreed to everything else, so maybe they're up for it. Maybe that's what they want. Now, that is the big story, the gas for rubles. But we have another big story that I want to get to, and this has to do with the negotiations that are taking place in Turkey. And we have more negotiations taking place. Turkey is mediating it, and they're taking place today. And the Financial Times came out with an article, and they said that, and I want to get this right as well, according to the Financial Times, on Monday, citing, and I quote, 4 people briefed on the discussions. Anonymous sources. 4 people briefed on the discussions. Moscow is now prepared to let Ukraine join the European Union if it remains militarily non-aligned as part of ongoing ceasefire negotiations, and Ukraine drops its NATO aspirations. The Financial Times also said, and I quote, the draft ceasefire document, this is the document that supposedly the Financial Times has seen from these anonymous 4 people, or they've been briefed on by these anonymous 4 people. The draft ceasefire document does not contain any discussion of 3 of Russia's initial core demands: denazification, demilitarization, and legal protection for the Russian language in Ukraine. This is what the Financial Times is claiming. And they added that its sources spoke under the condition of anonymity because the matter is not yet finalized. So obviously, if this is true, and the Russians have dropped their demands of denazification, demilitarization, and legal protection of the Russian language, and they are going to allow Ukraine to enter the European Union, then this would be a stunning defeat for Russia, a stunning defeat for Putin. A stunning defeat for Putin. Financial Times says that it's that this draft is a 15-point peace plan, and there is no breakthrough that has occurred as of yet. But the newspaper says that this is the information that they're getting from the anonymous sources, from these 4 individuals. This contradicts what Lavrov said on Serbian television just the other day. He told Serbian media that both denazification and demilitarization remain among the main goals of Moscow. That's what Lavrov said. Let me get you Lavrov's quote. It is our interest that these negotiations yield a result that will meet our principal goals. Lavrov said. He added that recent events in Ukraine have clearly shown that hardline nationalist fighters are exploring Nazi warfare style in practice. If you have seen how the NAZI Ukrainians from the Azov and Adar battalions treat Russian prisoners of war now, I think everything becomes clear to you. This is what Lavrov said, and he was obviously referencing the images with regards to the Russian POWs that went viral. And so these claims from the Financial Times obviously refute what Lavrov said just the other day on Serbian television. But if these claims are true, then this is there's no other way to look at this other than that this is a stunning defeat for Russia. A stunning defeat for Russia, if these claims are true and Russia is set to agree to these claims on the ceasefire. My own personal belief on this is that these anonymous sources obviously are U.S. government sources, and these U.S. government sources are getting this information from Ukraine sources. So these are Ukraine people. Who knows if they're involved in the negotiations? Who knows if they're just government officials who are dealing in some sort of psyop? That's possible as well. But those are the claims. Those are the claims that are being made by the Financial Times. My belief on this is that, once again, if it's true, then it's a defeat, an outright defeat for Russia, plain and simple, an outright defeat. But the fact that these claims say that Russia is ready to allow Ukraine to enter the EU, to me, that right there sounds fishy, because when have the negotiations ever mentioned Ukraine entering the EU. Russia has not mentioned it. It wasn't in any of Russia's terms. They never talked about Ukraine entering or not entering the EU. It's been about NATO. And even Ukraine has not said, vis-a-vis Russia, they haven't told Russia that we want to enter the EU. That's on the table. Ukraine hasn't told Russia that either. Ukraine has told the EU, let us in, yeah, but in negotiations, the EU hasn't gone to Russia and said, well, we want to talk about EU membership. So instead of NATO, we want to join the EU. So this is the first time we're hearing about this as part of the negotiations. So that right there tips me off to something very fishy going on. The other thing that tips me off to something very fishy going on with regards to this claim for the Financial Times via these anonymous sources is the fact that the Russians are now saying they're not going to press the issue of the Russian language being spoken in Ukraine. Are you telling me that Russia has entered this conflict, this special military operation, this war, in order to protect Russians in Ukraine, Russian speakers in Ukraine, the Donbass, the Russian culture and heritage in Ukraine, that they've done all of this just to sit at the table in Turkey, on the negotiating table in Turkey, and to say, you know what, Russian being an official language in Ukraine is not really that important to us. I don't buy it. I simply do not buy it. But that's just my opinion. I could be absolutely wrong. And if I'm wrong, then we have to admit that this would be an absolute defeat for Russia if this story from the Financial Times is correct, if it's accurate. I highly doubt it, but I don't know. We're going to find out in the next few days. Financial Times ran a similar article during the first negotiations that Russia is dropping the claims to this and that, and Dmitry Peskov came out and he refuted those claims. And sure enough, those negotiations led nowhere. So far, Peskov, the Russian spokesperson, the Kremlin spokesperson, has not come out with a claim yet. He hasn't refuted these claims for the Financial Times. Maybe he just doesn't feel a need to do it again, over and over again. I'm sure if Peskov was refuting claims from all the newspapers, all of the collective West media, he'd be doing it all day. He'd be a very, very busy person just refuting all the claims that are coming out of the media. So maybe he's just saying, you know what, I'm not even going to refute these claims from the Financial Times. I've already refuted claims from them once. Enough's enough. So who knows? But really an explosive article from the Financial Times. And a Greek school is probably on a field trip. Unfortunately, they still have to wear masks. The Greek government is still making the kids wear masks. What a crime that is. What a crime that is. The poor children. What a terrible, terrible crime. Anyway, yeah, so that's the news, everyone. I wanted to get these two very big stories out to you. The gas for rubles and this Financial Times article. Once again, I'm very suspicious of it. Russian language, they're going to take that. The Kremlin is going to take the Russian language off the table. And we haven't even spoken. I don't even know if that was part of the terms to begin with, the Russian language. So that's very fishy. And then the whole EU thing, very, very suspicious. Very, very suspicious. So anyway, my hunch on that article is that it's the Financial Times is sourcing it from U.S. government officials, anonymous government officials who are sourcing it from Ukraine government officials. So it could be a psyop. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out my channel, Duran.locals.com. I am going to cross the street here. That's the metro right there. The stairs to the metro. Duran.locals.com, everyone. Take care.